All right, what's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. We got some big news here as we're covering the financial markets and Social Security, and they're kind of linked here. We're going to talk with Senator Bill Cassidy, who says that the Silicon Valley Bank, which has failed here, which was the second largest bank to ever fail in the United States, and it happened in just 48 hours. He says that Social Security is the Silicon Valley Bank of, well, here, take a listen to what he says here. You'll find it pretty shocking.
It's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Well, here's what he says. And if you hear kind of how he relates it, it does kind of make sense, believe it or not. And Bill Cassidy is the Republican ranking member of the Senate Health and Education Committee and the Labor and Pensions Committee. So this is right up his alley. Take a listen to what he has to say here.
So, Senator, there's so much to talk to you about. I want to get to Social Security in a little bit, but let's start with the bank. It seems to me that a lot of bad decisions were made by the bank. At the same time, all weekend, I was hearing, I'm sure you were hearing too, a lot of investors really concerned about what would happen to other regional banks if, like, for instance, First Republic went down. What are your thoughts? Are we out of the woods yet, or do we still have a ways to go?
First, obviously, there's a lot of banks that are going to be exposed. A high inflation environment in which the Fed is trying to raise interest rates to catch up with them is exposing mismanagement. But as I was walking to the studio today, I passed First Republic. There is no line outside First Republic. It tells me that the people who have their money there have been reassured. That's an anecdote, of course, but metaphorically it tells us that the depositor is now okay. And the Fed's policy, which they tell us doesn't involve taxpayer dollars, seems to have been oil and water. So I am cautiously optimistic.
Well, and you say that's an anecdote. My gosh, the calls I was getting from California with all the lines around the First Republics and everything else, it was kind of frightening for a while. I am curious, how did we get back to this point, though? What are we now, 13 years after 2008? Did the regulators miss something with how Silicon Valley Bank was working?
Well, first, the fault has to first lay at management. Management knew that their investment strategy was ill-equipped to deal with high inflation, high interest rates. So first, it's management. But could the regulators have imagined that as well? Absolutely. I'm told that people selling stock short, they sold the SVB stock short, and they made $500 million. So somebody out there knew that the bank was bleeding to death. So yes, the regulators did something wrong, but ultimately I think it's the high inflation, high interest rates that's going to expose mismanagement, not just at SVB, but at other companies as well.
And as Joe said, we'll be hearing from the president here shortly in a few minutes, and we'll take those remarks live. Senator, I want to talk to you about an issue that you've been pushing lately. It's Social Security solvency. And there's been chatter among some members of your own party about the retirement age perhaps should be raised here. Where do you think, what are your concerns right now about Social Security, and where do you see, what would your message be to American workers who are hearing this rhetoric? What do you think the retirement age should be?
Let's back up a little bit.
Sure.
Social Security is the Silicon Valley Bank of retirement systems. It is going broke in 9 years. And when it goes broke, by current law, if you're receiving a check right now from Social, that check goes down by 25%. You lose 1/4 of the income that you would have if we don't do anything. So we've got to step up and make sure that Social Security benefits are there for those who are getting it now and those who are going to be. The approach we're taking, the centerpiece, is to create a fund separate from Social Security, very separate from Social, and to allow an investment strategy which will grow over time and help Social. It'll bridge it to sustainability. It'll make Social stronger. It'll strengthen it. It'll secure it. So the main thing we're talking about in our approach is this investment fund, separate from Social, this investment fund that actually bails Social out. Everything else is just a dial. You can dial this, you can dial that. But the investment fund is that which is critical.
So President Biden, of course, is offering a very different vision. He just outlined his budget a few days ago. He's been extremely critical of some plans put forth by your fellow Republicans in the Senate, one from Florida in particular, about Social Security, about Medicare. Where should those negotiations go? Do you think that Senator Scott's plan is the right one?
Senator Scott's plan is wrong. It is totally separate from our plan. And by the way, our approach, if you will, is bipartisan. And so bipartisan means that Democrats and Republicans are liking the framework, this kind of idea of a fund separate from social. But if somebody tells you that there's no need to address Social Security, they're either too old or too rich to care. President Biden needs to be honest with the American people. Social is going broke in 9 years, and when it goes broke, there's going to be a 25% cut. And with somebody who's currently receiving Social Security, they will get 25% less. So now, if he wants to pretend that we don't need to do anything, that means he thinks he's going to be out of office when it occurs. We need to step up now to protect the person who's relying upon social. In order to pay her bills, we need to start planning now.
So, Senator, a long time ago, when I was in Congress, we had to slow down the rate of increase of Medicare because the Medicare trustees said Medicare was going to go bankrupt in 7 years, going to go broke in 7 years. You're talking about 9 years. Are the trustees saying that Social Security runs out of money in 9 years?
Joe, absolutely. And they've been predicting this for 20 years. It's not like it just dawned upon us. It was going to go.
Can I just ask you? Can I ask you that real quickly? Because I must tell you, I've been taught. I could go back to 1994. I've been saying this since 1994, and I've been warning about deficits and warning about debts and warning about inflation coming. And at some point, people look at you as a boy who cried wolf. So if I've been warning about Social Security since 1994 and how we need to get rid, and nothing's happened, what do you say to those people who say, you guys have been saying this for 30 years?
Joe, when you said it was going broke, you didn't mean tomorrow. You meant in 30 years. So for 30 years, 29, 20, 15, 10, we've been warning. And now it's upon us. So we have a choice. Either we pretend there's no problem, like President Biden did during the State of the Union speech, or we say there is a problem. If we address it now, we can address it in a way which eliminates the possibility of a 25% cut in benefits for people who rely upon Social Security. We can also fix it in a way which makes it more fair for those who perhaps it is not quite fair for now. If we wait till the last minute, boom, it's going to be a car wreck. You're going to have to throw things together. It won't be nearly as well thought out. Let's do it now.
So how does your plan protect working class Americans? How does your plan help middle class Americans and people in Louisiana from feeling the crunch of having some of their benefits taken away?
The heart and soul of our approach is to come up with a fund separate from Social Security, which has a different investment strategy than does social. Now, by the way, there is no risk for the person working back home, that LSU Tiger fan. There's no risk whatsoever for her or for him. The risk will be borne by the fund. But you keep the fund going for decades, and you kind of, that way, the ups and downs of the market, you kind of level out. And at the end, if you do the math, we'll have enough in that fund that can pay off any debt accumulated in terms of making sure that everybody gets the benefits they're promised.
Yeah, so let me know your thoughts there and his analogy of Social Security being a bank that is going broke here in potentially 9 years. If you've been watching my channel, you know I've been warning you about that because that's what the Congressional Budget Office, directly from the government, has been warning us about as well. And with this high inflationary environment and the largest or the most 8.7% raise here, the fourth largest raise ever, Social Security, it's kind of sped things up a little bit here recently as well. So this particular proposal would be to take a portion of people's Social Security's earnings, and they could then invest it in stocks or bonds or investments like that to get a larger earning. Okay, and over time, we have seen the stock markets have got a larger return. In fact, you can see here the S&P 500 stock market index, which is the top 500 companies here in the United States, gained value in 40 of the past 50 years, generating an average annualized return of 9.4%, which is pretty good. Very good, in my opinion. But, so compared to treasuries, which is what Social Security is in, it depends on the time frame of what you look up here. But what is the rate of return for the Social Security Trust Fund? The annual effective interest rate, the average rate of returns on all investments over a 1-year period of the trust fund combined was 2.45% for the Social Security Trust Fund. So you can see it's a big difference. And when you add that up annualized, year over year over year over year, it's a very big difference. That's, you can do the math. Of course, this is just one proposal, and I'll link you to another video here where we talk about several more proposals here on the table right now. And I'll link you to that video here. Now, if you're new to our channel or if you haven't yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below, then the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos. And if you appreciate these videos, don't forget to hit the like button for us. It helps us out here with the YouTube algorithm. Here's some videos you can watch next. Here's that video with 2 new Social Security bills already on the table to help fix Social Security. And here's an interesting video, but this is it. This could be the end. Yeah, so click on one of those videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.